Only his mother knows. This moment proves Jungkook's hidden fragile side. Behind the glitter of the stage, the spotlight of the camera, and the cheers of millions of fans around the world, there is one side that is almost never really seen from the figure of Jungkook. The figure who is known to be strong, confident, and always looks perfect turns out to keep a fragile space that only one person knows: his own mother. And when that moment was slowly revealed, many hearts were touched, even broken, because they realized that the idol who had been looking unshakable turned out to be humans who kept their wounds. Jungkook is not just a member of BTS. He is a symbol of hard work, dedication, and sacrifice since a very young age. Many know that he debuted as a teenager, but not many really understand what he left behind to reach that point. His childhood that should have been filled with playing and laughing. Instead, he spent it in the practice room, under the unforgiving pressure of the industry. However, behind all that, there is one story that is rarely heard. A story about how Jungkook, at certain moments, did not become the golden magne admired by the world. He returned to being an ordinary boy who missed his mother's embrace. In a moment told by those closest to him, Jungkook once experienced an extraordinary point of exhaustion. Not only physical, but also mental. A tight schedule, high expectations, and the pressure to always look perfect slowly eroded his energy. In front of the camera, he kept smiling. He still shows the best version of himself. But once the lights went out, everything changed. He sat alone, shut up, without words. There was no loud cry. No complaints were said. But his eyes speak a lot. About inexplicable tiredness. About a burden that cannot be shared with anyone. And at that moment, the only person who truly understood the situation was his mother. His mother doesn't just see Jungkook as a world star. He saw him as a child who used to be afraid of the dark, who used to cry because of small things, who used to need a hug every time he felt insecure. And perhaps, in the midst of all this success, that side is never really lost. There is a story that circulates among fans about how his mother always asks one simple thing to Jungkook: "Are you okay today?" A question that sounds ordinary. But for Jungkook, it is something that means a lot. Because in a world that always demands him to be okay, only his mother really wants to know if he is really okay. In an old interview, Jungkook had mentioned how his family, especially his mother, became the biggest reason he survived. Not because of ambition, not because of popularity, but because he wants to repay all the sacrifices that have been given to him since childhood. He once lived in limitations. He has seen how his parents struggle to meet the needs of the family. And since then, he made a big decision. He wanted to be someone who could change the situation. However, the decision came with a price that was not small. He has to grow up faster than children his age. He must learn to face a harsh world without much protection. He has to suppress his emotions, hide his fears, and keep walking even though sometimes he himself does not know which direction he is going. And in the midst of all that, his mother is still the place where he returns. Not on stage, not in front of the camera, but in a quiet room, in moments that have never been witnessed by the public. There was a time when Jungkook came home with a tired body, hoarse voice, and a full mind. He doesn't talk much. He just sat down, and his mother, without needing to say much, understood. He didn't ask about the achievement. He didn't talk about the schedule. He only made sure of one thing: his son was okay. And perhaps that's where the most touching truth lies, that behind all of Jungkook's great achievements, there's a simple need that he still has: to be understood, to be heard, to be loved unconditionally. Only his mother knows. And as time goes by, the story about Jungkook's fragile side doesn't stop at just one moment. Rather, more and more small pieces that if put together, form a much deeper picture of who he really is, not as a world star, but as a human being who is secretly struggling. In the midst of a global schedule with BTS, moving from one country to another, performing on a grand stage with thousands or even millions of spectators, Jungkook is often in a situation that makes him have to turn off his feelings. He didn't have much room to stop. There's no time to really process what he feels. The world keeps moving, and it must keep following. However, it is on the sidelines the fragile side appears in the most unexpected way. Once upon a time, after a big performance that received extraordinary praise, Jungkook returned to the waiting room. Everyone celebrates. Everyone is proud. But he just sat still, staring blankly at the floor. For others, it was a night of victory. But for Jungkook, it was just one of the many days he went through with mixed feelings. It's not because he's not grateful. It's not because he's not happy. But because there's a pressure that never really goes away. The pressure to always be better, not to disappoint, not to show weakness. And again, the only place where he can really fall without fear of being judged is his house. There's another story that is quieter, more personal, which is rarely talked about how Jungkook sometimes chooses not to tell what he experienced to anyone around him. Not because he doesn't believe, but because he doesn't want to be a burden. He is used to bearing it all by himself. But his mother knew, without the need for a long explanation, without the need for complicated details. A mother, with an inexplicable instinct, can sense when something is wrong. Many fans are starting to see small changes in Jungkook over time. He started to be more open. He began to show a more honest side. He no longer always tries to look perfect. And maybe it's not because he turned into a different person, but because he finally gave himself space to become a human. Moments like when he speaks more quietly, when he smiles without being forced, when he admits that he also once felt doubtful. Everything feels more real, closer, more touching. And behind all that, there is one common thread that never breaks: the presence of her mother. Not as a figure who always appears in front of the public, not as a figure who seeks attention, but as a foundation that secretly sustains everything that Jungkook builds. Without spotlight, without confession, but with such a big impact. This story is not only about Jungkook. This is a story about many people out there who may look strong, look fine, but are actually struggling in silence. This is a reminder that we never really know what someone feels just from what they show. And maybe that's the reason why this story feels so close in the hearts of many people. Because in it, there is a simple but deep truth that everyone, no matter how strong or successful they look, still needs someone who sees them as they are. Someone who is not only proud when they succeed, but also stays there when they fall. For Jungkook, that person is his mother. And maybe that's the reason why, in the midst of all the world's noise, the one voice he heard most clearly was not the cheers of thousands of fans, but a simple question that was always the same. Are you okay today? A question that may sound small, but for Jungkook, it's everything. Because in a world that keeps demanding him to be perfect, there's only one place where he does not need to pretend. And there, the fragile side that he had been hiding all this time could finally breathe. Without fear, without pressure, only as himself.